Hey everybody, it's Beth from Yoga and Reiki Bliss, and I'm popping in today with a little practice to help build a little strength, mobility, even awareness of how we get up and down off the ground, which is certainly functional in real life, but it's also functional in our yoga practice, right? There are times we might want to get up and down off the ground um, with the use of props and without the use of props. So it's nice to have both options available. I've got a blanket, I've got a couple of blocks, I've got a chair. You're welcome to have all of those props as well. So you can explore different ways that you might need to or want to use a prop. So let's hop on the mat. I'm going to scooch my blanket off to the side to start. And I'm going to start on my back. And you can too. And we'll start with the knees bent. And I would say walk your feet a little bit forward, still that you can feel your whole foot on the ground, but not so close that it feels like there's just no room here. Particularly because I want to be able to have some ease to move the pelvis, and I want to capitalize on the strength of the glutes. So from my own explorations, I feel like you can sense into the glutes a little bit more when the feet are a little further forward. So take a moment to find your breath. So that you know this breath is an undercurrent through everything you do, especially as we get to doing things maybe with less body parts on the earth or fewer body parts on the earth. You still know you've got your breath underneath you. There isn't a moment where you're gripping or holding your breath. So just know you're breathing in and know you're breathing out. Take a moment to consider any tension in your face, in your toes or fingers. See what could let go. And so let's start with the pelvis. When you exhale next, I'd love you to rock your pelvis backwards so your lower back comes toward the ground. It's kind of like cat pose, but again, you can only go so far because the ground is there. And then when you breathe in, let's rock the pelvis forward so that your lower back curves away from the ground. When you exhale, rock your pelvis back, your low back toward the ground, almost feels like your tail is starting to curl up toward your knees. And then rock your pelvis forward so that it almost feels like your tail is curling down toward the ground. Let's rock it back one more time. Press firmly into your feet, press straight down and lift your hips. So there'll be a little bit of a backward tilt towards your pelvis. We're not looking for a big back bend here. We're just looking to bring a little bit of awareness to those glute muscles. And then we'll slowly, slowly peel the spine back down. When you inhale, let your pelvis tilt forward so you get that arch away from the ground. When you exhale, rock your pelvis back so it feels like your tail is curling up towards your knees. Press into your feet and lift your hips. Again, not super deep or high. But keep pressing strongly into those feet, like you're trying to lift your hips and straighten your legs at the same time. And then roll everything back down. Let's do that one more time. Your breath in, tilt forward, make the little back bend like cow. Exhale, curl your pelvis so that your tail moves towards your knees, your low back toward the ground. Press into your feet, lift your hips. Take a breath in here. And when you exhale, we'll roll down. Great. Now from here, excuse me, let's roll onto your right side. And you could put a block, a blanket, or even your right arm under your head. You can bend the knees. And let's take the top leg, the left leg, straight out in front of you. So like it would be stepping on the wall across the way from your chest. We'll start with it about hip height, with your kneecap and your toes facing the direction your head is facing. And when you inhale, we'll lift the leg just a few inches higher than your hip. And when you exhale, lower it. Again, we're going to lift it. And I'd love you to lift it only to the point before it feels like you're either going to open your pelvis or rock onto your back. I want you to stay firmly on your bottom hip and then lower. We'll just lift and lower a few more times like that. So this for me is less about how high you can lift, but more about waking up these outer hip muscles, which are going to be important to help stabilize the front knee as we move into lunges and we move into stepping forward. Let's do 2 more. And then we'll bend that knee. Take a moment if you need a little rub into that hip, if it got a little sore, rub it around. And then go ahead and roll onto your other side. Same idea. You can bend your 2 knees. Take the top leg straight out in front of you. So your foot and your chest are facing in the same direction. And then we'll lift it again just a few inches higher than your hips. And then we'll lower it just a few inches lower than your hip. We'll lift and we'll lower. So I'd love you to think again about this outer hip. Can you sense the work that it's doing? And it might even be interesting to press your bottom leg into the ground, like you're trying to push the ground away. So that the bottom hip gets a little more of an isometric action in that hip, trying to open up that hip. And let's do 1 more. Good, let's bend the knee, relax your 2 legs, relax your 2 hips. And then let's come up onto hands and knees. And so here it might be nice to grab a blanket and put it under your knees. You might have your blocks or your chair right in front of you. I'm going to place your knees right under your hips. As wide as your hips might feel very nice, very stable. And we'll take the hands under the shoulders. I've been enjoying the front of my shoulders over the underside of my wrist just to feel a little more spacious through my ribs and as wide as my shoulders so that my collarbones feel wide. So I have a nice solid foundation of support. Then give a little push into the ground, like you're trying to push down into the ground, push the ground away. And I'd love you to think about that left hip, super stable. And we're going to take the right knee out to the side, like an old school fire hydrant lift. And we'll hug it back in. And here I'd love you to consider what's the height you can take it before you start to dip into your left hip and tilt over to the left. And only lift your right leg out to the right as much as you can, keeping your pelvis from rocking or twisting right to left or tilting forward and back like we just did, right? Neutral pelvis here. Let's do it 1 more time. Great. And now we'll do it on the other leg. Let me turn this way so you can see. So as we're here, you might invite just a light support of your abdominals, hugging in towards your belly button, hugging back towards your spine, so that we don't dip into a cow pose. And now press firmly into your 2 hands, into your right shin, and lift your left knee out to the left and bring it back in. Again, only to the degree that you can before the pelvis starts to either rotate or drift over to the right or tilt into a cow pose. We're just going to do 2 more. Terrific. Come back to table. All right, now let's slip your hands up onto blocks. Either I'd say the mid or the high height so that you get a little bit more lift. Again, we'll keep the hips over the knees, the hands blocks under the shoulders. Push down into the blocks like you're trying to drive them into the earth. And when you're ready to exhale, go ahead and step your right foot in between your blocks. Now, for some of us, that right foot may have to come around to the side. And that's okay. I want you to feel that action of bringing the right foot forward. Have a moment, scooch that heel under the knee, and then bring your right knee back. Push into your blocks. With an exhale, bring your left knee towards your chest or slightly to the left. Step your left foot forward with your heel under your knee. Plant that whole foot down. And imagine that you were stepping into it to step forward, but don't. Now push into your blocks, lift your foot up, bring your knee back, minimal scuffing. All right, let's just use the left hand on your block. You can move the right block out to the side. Right hand to your hip. Take a breath in, push down. When you exhale, bring your right foot forward. Again, push into that foot like you're going to step up, but don't actually step up. And then bring your knee back. Take your right hand onto the block, your left hand to your hip. So you're just removing one hand. And could you step your left foot forward? Press into that left foot like you were going to step forward, but don't. And then bring your left knee back. Now from here, if it's available, come to stand on your two knees. Now you can always put your hands back on the blocks if things get a little wonky, if you feel unstable. Otherwise, take a breath in. You have to shift into your left shin a little bit to step your right foot forward. And now let's place the hands on the blocks. Tuck your back toes, lift your back knee. Have a moment to enjoy a lunge. So you can get a feeling of length from your heel reaching back all the way to the center of your skull, reaching forward. Let's take one more full breath. Nice. And then lower your knee down. Now, if it's available, lift your hands up. Little weight shift into that left shin. Bring your right knee back. And if you wobble, you wobble. That's sort of part of life. We can look at it as a non-falling experience. All right, shift the weight into your right shin. Go ahead, step your left foot forward. We're going to use the heel under the knee. So we've got the support of the ankle. Take your hands to your blocks, tuck your back toe, lift your back knee. See if you can reach through that back heel a lot. Straighten gently without locking, but straighten your back knee so the shin is lifted, the thigh is lifted. And then reach forward through the center of your skull. Let's take one more breath. And then let's place that knee down. Again, if it's available, come up and we'll see if we can bring that left knee back. You could always have your hands on your blocks. All right. Now let's take your two hands onto your blocks. I'm going to stick with mid-height. Low height could be available too. I wouldn't use the high height only because there's a little less surface area. The blocks are a little less stable. So push into your blocks. You're trying to push them away. Feel that little length through your elbows, the lift through your chest. Tuck your toes under, lift your knees. Find your breath here. Keep pushing strongly through your arms. Keep lightly hugging your abdominals towards your spine. And then let's walk the feet forward till you're in Uttanasana. Forward bend. You can turn your blocks up as you need to. Just a nice long breath in and a nice long breath out. Then let's place the hands on the shins. Reach the top of your head forward. If you have a chair there, don't hit it. And then come all the way up. So you're using the strong muscles of the back of your hips, your glute muscles to bring you up. Now, here you might decide to have a chair. I would say the back might be the better choice because it's a little bit higher than the seat. But let's come to stand in mountain pose with the feet about the distance of your hip points, so hips width apart. Find a breath in and find a breath out. Now you can breathe your arms forward or rest your hands on your chair back and bend your knees and sit back. Take a little bit of a squat here. If it feels more stable, you could widen your feet a little bit further. But I'd love you to now press your feet out like you were trying to stretch your yoga mat out to the sides. And see if you can sense as you kind of pull your feet out on the mat, that those outer hips kick in. Take one more full breath in. And then let's fold over to Uttanasana. Your hands could be on blocks or the earth. With a breath in, step your right leg back. Scooch your hands with or without your blocks under your shoulders. Find that little bit of length. And then from here, bend your back knee till it just touches the earth. And maybe it just hovers, and that's fine. Then fire it back up. Again, bend your back knee and fire it back up. One more time, bend your back knee and fire it back up. Take a breath in, and we'll step forward to fold. When you inhale, let's sweep out and rise up. Let's take your arms in front or to your chair seat. Bend your knees. Spread that mat with your feet. Take one breath in, one breath out. And let's take the hands to prayer at your heart and fold over to Uttanasana. Inhale your left leg back. And see if you can really turn up onto as many toes as possible so your kneecap is facing downward. And then from here, we'll bend the back knee and fire it back up. Bend the back knee and fire it back up. One more time, we'll bend the back knee. So just trying to wake up those quad muscles and fire it back up. Take one more inhale. Press firmly into your right foot and step forward. With a breath in, we'll sweep out and rise up. Again, as you exhale, take your hands in front or to your chair back. Bend your knees, sit back. A little squat, not your deepest. Breathe your hands to your heart. Hinge forward. We're going to do the same movement. I'd love you to think about lightening your hands on your blocks, maybe by 10%. Inhale your right leg back. Light hands as you bend the back knee and fire it back up. Bend the back knee and fire it back up. Check it in one more time. If this bothers your knee, then you can just decrease the amount of bend or lose the bend altogether. Take one more breath in. Super light hands, super rooted front left foot. Step forward. With a breath in, we'll sweep out and rise up. Again, we'll bend the knees, sit into that chair, into that little squat. Spread your mat. Breathe your hands to your heart. Fold to your Uttanasana. Go ahead, take your left leg back. Again, bend your back knee to the degree that you can without pain. Fire it back up. So it might be a little bend. It might be all the way to touch. Or you might decide, my knee does not enjoy this. So then hang out for one more breath. And I'd love you to think about pressing into that front foot, that strong outer right hip, as you lightly, fingertips on the blocks, step forward. And then with a breath in, hello chair, we'll sweep out and rise up. Now from here, let's take the hands to your heart. We're going to step the right leg back. Now, as you do this, if it feels way too wobbly, you could keep your hands on a chair back. Okay? And then we're going to shorten this step so that your right foot is not in its deepest lunge back, right? So a short lunge back. Again, your hands could be on the chair or you could go hands free. We're going to bend the back knee and fire it back up. Bend the back knee and fire it back up. Bend the back knee. You'll notice my left knee is still over my left ankle. And there's a little hinge in my hips, a little forward as I come on up and step forward. Now, I'd like to do the other leg, and then we're going to come back to this first leg in a second. So again, you may have hands on your chair chair back, or hands on your hips. We're going to step the left foot back. Again, not your biggest lunge. With your hands on the chair back or your hands on your hips, lower your knee down. Take a peek. My whole foot is on the ground. So I'd love you to think about that too. Where do you need to put yourself so the whole foot stays on the ground? Fire it back up. Bend the back knee. Fire it back up. Bend the back knee. Again, have a moment. Press into the front foot. Strong outer right hip as you fire up and step forward. All right. So let's try it like this. We're going to step the right leg back. Again, your hands might be on your chair, but you might also go hands-free. Lower your knee down. Bring your left knee back. So now we're in kneeling. If you were kneeling or sitting on the ground, here's a way you could come up. You could come to kneeling. You could step that left foot forward, fire the back knee back up. Again, there's that little hinge. Press into the left foot and step forward. Go ahead, step your left foot back. Lower your left knee. Bring your right knee back underneath you. You've just been playing on the ground with your friends, your kids, your grandkids, whomever, your dog, your cat, but you got to get up. So now I'm going to step the right foot forward. Toes, knee, same direction. Outer right hip super strong. Hinge a little bit. Root into that front heel. Fire up the back leg. Step forward. So there you go. Just one way we can practice getting up and down off the ground with or without props. You can use blocks, you can use the ground, you can use a chair, or you can work toward hands-free. I hope you had fun playing with that. I think our yoga practice should always have a little element of fun and surprise, as well as all the other wonderful ingredients of mindfulness and alignment and awareness. Okay, friends, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Any questions, let me know. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page, please do so. And for more practices, videos, classes, you can check out my website, thisisyourbliss.com. Okay, thanks again. Bye for now, and I'll see you real soon.